Hello, and welcome back to Mondays with Melissa. I'm your host, Melissa Ross. I'm a holistic health and life coach, and I help women break free from sugar and stress eating so they can be calm, confident, and in control. And this is my weekly podcast where I talk about health, wellness, mom life, faith, and hope. So I want to talk today about something that I don't see a lot of in the world, if it's safe to say that. And I want to talk about open-mindedness. I feel like this year especially has amplified that we really tend to see things only one way as humans, and we maybe aren't open to the whole picture. Maybe we're not open to another way of doing or being. And as a coach, I see this a lot. I think people maybe are afraid to change. They are afraid to consider another perspective. They are afraid of trying something new and different. And there can be a lot of reasons for that. It could be fear of failure. It could be fear of being wrong. There could be a myriad of reasons why that is. But I really want to share a concept called mapping. And I learned this in my coaching practice. And it was really eye-opening, not only in coaching, but also in life. Because you see, we have something called a map, and that's essentially the lens through which we see the world. And we see the world through our map. That's our experiences. That's our way of doing things. That's how the world looks to us based on what we know. And so our maps are our maps. They're our way of doing things because it's what we know. It's how we've done things. And a lot of times people have a different map than us because they have a different way that they've lived. They have a different way that they have done things. And so it's really just interesting to think about how this is playing out in the world, how this is playing out in relationships, how this is playing out in social media. And if you're really open to seeing the world through someone else's map. And so I really believe that if we can see one another's map, it really helps us to understand them better. It helps us to understand their come from. It helps us to understand why they see things a certain way. And it helps us to understand their point of view rather than judging them and rather than saying, we don't like that, that's not how we do it. But it helps us to be curious and really understand the other person's perspective. And I think that's really been missing a lot this year. And it's concerning to me, to be quite frank with you. I feel like, people put stuff out on social media, and that's great and wonderful. And then someone may not have the same map and they'll comment. And because it's social media, it's hard to hear the undertone. It's hard to hear the perception. It's hard to hear the tone. It's hard to hear the context. And so I think that's something that's missed in social media is we miss that aspect of it. But then when you've got two different maps, it's really hard, I think, to meet in the middle without having an in-person conversation. So I'm trying to find an example of mapping and what this looks like, and I'm not having so much luck here. So I'm going to keep talking, but I just wonder what the world would look like if we were to be curious instead of judgmental. And I wonder what it would look like if we would ask questions instead of judging, and we would really try to understand the other person's come from and their perspective before we rush to a conclusion. I just can't help but think maybe that's something missing in the world today. And how do we fix that? I think that looks like being curious ourselves. I think that it looks like not judging ourselves. And really being curious about our own behavior. And so the map is basically a visual concept that helps us understand that everyone sees the world differently. We all have our own map of the world depending on our upbringing, our beliefs, our attitudes, our prejudices, and our individual perceptions at any given time. And so everything that we see and hear is adjusted to fit our map of the world. So your map is really your internal map of reality. It's your unique view of the world. And everyone has a completely unique worldview, and each worldview is equally valid. And I think we dismiss and forget that sometimes when we're having those conversations. And the map is important because its contents determine our experience of life. And it's our map that enables or limits us in our endeavors in every area of life. It is the content of an individual's map that makes something so incredibly easy for one person and so seemingly impossible for another. We each started assembling our map at birth, and over the years we've added to it. Everything that has ever happened to us, everything we've ever decided to be true, and every belief we've ever formed is somewhere on our internal map of reality. So our maps contain our beliefs about ourselves, about our capabilities, our deservingness, and how we fit in the world. This is so important, and yet it's really not talked about much, is it? Like the highways and byways of a roadmap, everything that is on our map is somehow connected to everything else. The meaning someone makes about what happened is more meaningful than the content of what happened. It's not about what happened to you, it's about what meaning you make about what happened to you. Your map actively determines the meaning you make out of life and out of any life experience. And each new experience and new meaning gets added to the map, reinforcing, modifying, and adding to what was already there. And our maps are pretty much automated. New input gets taken in, evaluated, interpreted, and assigned in its place. We all have mistakes and outdatedness on our maps that limit us in life and prevent us from experiencing all the fulfillment, happiness, and success that we would like and that we're capable of. And as coaches, I get to help the client connect to and reroute their map instead of imposing my map on them. That's not fair. And I think that's what happens a lot in the world is we impose our maps on people instead of trying to understand their map and maybe how we could work the two together. So what we can do is we can approach other people as if we're travelers visiting a foreign country, and we get to enjoy the curiosity of that map and that perception, and it's different than ours, and it's okay. And I feel like today we expect so many people to be on the same map, and if you're not, my goodness. So I really encourage you now, as we head into the holidays and you might see family and friends and people you haven't, whether it's in person, whether it's via Zoom, whatever that looks like for you, no judgment. I encourage you to get curious and not judge, and really try to understand the other person's map and maybe why their map is different than yours and how your map can work together with theirs. And if you can do this one skill, it could change your life. Like it really could impact all of your relationships. It really could have a beautiful ripple effect. And I think for me, it made a difference in so many areas of my life. It really helped me find freedom. And when I found freedom, I stopped desiring the sugar. I stopped stress eating because I was free. I didn't feel like I had to stuff anything. I didn't feel like I had to hide anything. I didn't feel like I could not be myself. Like that's a really gross feeling, to be honest with you. And I think a lot of times it happens because we're not understood, because people don't try to get on our map and we don't try to get on theirs. So as we head into the holidays, my encouragement for you is to get curious, replace curiosity with judgment, replace judgment with curiosity, excuse me. I was testing you to see if you're listening. Replace judgment with curiosity and try to understand the other people's maps. And if you find yourself where I was and you feel like you are eating too much sugar because you feel misunderstood and overwhelmed, I have a guide for you. And I'll put a link in the notes to kick sugar to the curb, because I know that was my struggle. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm sharing these things, because yes, it was about sugar, but it was about other things that were making me reach for the sugar. So I'm going to wrap it up now, but if you have any questions, if you need anything, please reach out. Please let me know. I'm here. I always am happy to do complimentary coffee chats with people where we talk about your goals, where you're at, maybe where you're stuck, and how you can get unstuck. So have a beautiful day, friends. We'll talk to you soon.